Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is creating a new model. Let's call it the Florida model. And this is turning heads all over the country. Turning heads, I'm quite sure, among fellow Republican governors who now go, wow, this guy's really showing how to get it done, how to deal with the media, how to neutralize opposition, and really how to insulate yourself from scandal and from counterattack. And DeSantis is showing that he's really a multi-talented guy in the political sphere. CNN is taking notice. There's an interesting article that talks about DeSantis, and it's not negative. It actually has a grudging appreciation for him. I'll just read a few lines. He is a generational talent at seizing headlines. Now, he's talking here, the writer is about DeSantis's star quality. I don't think DeSantis compares in star quality, say, to Trump, but nevertheless, he does have that star quality. He knows how to, not so much on the force of personality, but more by seizing on the correct issue to put himself out front and put himself in the headlines. CNN goes to talk about his, quote, campaign inevitability. And this is another important a phenomenon, namely the idea that I'm unbeatable. I've established myself in Florida. Yeah, you can run against me, but it's going to be kind of token opposition. And so DeSantis, having won a very narrow race to become the governor, is now making it look like his re-election is going to be, well, if not a foregone conclusion, then at least a great likelihood. DeSantis has turned his state position into a national platform more than any governor in recent memory. People have talked about other governors, Greg Abbott in Texas, Kristi Noem, as being potential candidates in the future. But I think it's probably fair to say that neither of them are commenting or taken as national figures yet. But DeSantis really is. He's not just taken as a prospect for the future, but as a national figure now. And CNN has noticed that. They go on to talk about the way that DeSantis has across the board been advancing the conservative agenda. Of course, his very latest move is to set up, I kind of love the term, the election police. Now, I don't even think this guy has seen 2,000 Mules yet, but he's clearly aware that A, there's a problem, and B, there's a lot of concern on this side of the aisle about that problem. In other words, no one is ready to forget about, well, there are a few Republican establishment of, let's forget about the 2020 election. Let's not look in the rearview mirror, Dinesh. Well, we can't really go forward without knowing the truth about what actually happened. So DeSantis, I think, has a political antenna that recognizes this. And so he's taking steps in that area. He's obviously pulled the tax support for Disney. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast today and on the show. He's taken on critical race theory. The state of Florida recently rejected a whole bunch of math textbooks. Why? Because they have all kinds of emotional and, quote, social learning. Well, when you look at an equation, how does it make you feel? Do you feel sort of intimidated by numbers? And look, I'm not saying that there's no place at all for some consideration of how you feel, but a little bit of ruthlessness, I think, is the right approach. I mean, I say this as someone who was subject to a pretty heavy-handed math education. Memorize this, remember these formulas, and then just apply them to see which one works in a given situation. This is not ultimately about whether you are feeling sad today. This is about getting the correct answer. DeSantis has gone after these big tech companies. Now, the Florida law that reins in these big tech companies has been put on hold by a court, but nevertheless, it was passed through the legislature in the wake of the George Floyd riots. DeSantis has called for, and in fact performed, a review of policing policies. He has welcomed police from other states who are feeling demoralized with bonuses. Hey, come to Florida. And we know it's all kind of working. And we know it's working. Why? Because there are 1,000 people who are moving to Florida every single day. So this is the kind of test. Immigration, you might say, is the sincerest form of flattery. I mean, the actual proverb is imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but it applies just as well to immigration. If people are leaving your state and you're the governor, you kind of have to ask why. And if people are coming to Florida from other places, it's going to be because they think it's a better place to live. It offers them a better prospects for them, for a good life, a good retired life, or a good life for your children. I don't know what DeSantis's future is. I think that Trump even now dominates the party. And in a sense, if Trump sort of wants the nomination in 2024, at least at this point, it's hard for me to see Trump having a serious competitor. And again, I think DeSantis knows this. He's kind of in the Trumpian trail. Now, it may well be, we don't know, that Trump, in retrospect, will turn out to be kind of a William Wallace who sort of takes things to the battlefield, but it's DeSantis who ultimately wins the battle. I'm here using the analogy of Robert Bruce winning the battle at Bannockburn and giving the Scottish independence. But this is all pure speculation. Who really knows? I think DeSantis's point is, look, it's Trump's moment in the sun. He's clearly the de facto leader of the party. If he wants to run, let him run. I will sort of travel in his wake. I'll be sort of the next Trumpster. And if Trump runs and is successful and Trump gets a second term, then who's next in line, if not DeSantis? There might be a few other names to consider. And I think, again, it's early to decisively make proclamations about this kind of thing. But if one is looking for kind of an early favorite, then you'd be hard-pressed to do any better than the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis.